As I visited the Henry Ford IMAX Theater, I got to take a glimpse of the film running as it shows an educational film to groups of elementary kids. I sat down with Ron Barch to discuss what goes on in the IMAX and how it is affected with the new technology that is coming out.
Hi everybody, my name is Ron Barch and I'm the Senior Manager for IMAX Projection and Programming at the Henry Ford IMAX Theater in Dearborn. The Henry Ford IMAX Theater is a part of the Henry Ford, America's greatest history attraction, and we're also comprised of Henry Ford Museum, Greenfield Village, and the Ford Bush Tractor Tour. The IMAX Theater features Michigan's largest screen, and it also features classic IMAX 70mm film projection. And we built the theater in November of 1999, and we've been going ever since.
Alright, so how does the technology, different technologies that you see nowadays with the CGI and the IMAX, the 3D, and the digital affect the film today?
Well, in terms of motion picture production, shooting motion pictures, many filmmakers have transitioned to digital cameras as a capture medium. For big budget special effects movies, certainly we're seeing a lot more CGI stuff nowadays than we did back in the days of miniatures and models and old school ways of filming. Of course, there's a whole bunch of things they can do with computers and digital effects nowadays for special effects of the movies, and it all looks great on screen, of course, and that's great. And but there are some directors, like for example, Christopher Nolan and J.J. Abrams, who, in addition to using the new methods of capture, they're also embracing some old school ways. Like Abrams is doing for the upcoming Star Wars movie, with shooting with miniatures and models and so forth, as opposed to CGI. In terms of the projection technology, only within the last 5 to 7 years or so, have we seen major technological changes in the theater industry. Most notably, the transition from traditional film projection to digital projection. And there's more than one reason for that. In some ways it's better quality, not in all ways, but in terms of cost and distribution, it's much cheaper for digital distribution of films to theaters on little hard drives as opposed to multiple cans of films. And it also streamlines the distribution model, makes it much faster and easier for theaters to turn themselves around, to turn themselves over. Of course, new movies open every week and old movies leave, so the digital makes that process a little bit easier. And it also opens the door for more content to be shown on screens, besides just movies. They can use digital projectors to show all kinds of content, like television programs and different things as well. So again, whereas on the capture side, CGI's been around for a number of years in the way directors shoot films. But only within more recent history have we seen this shift from film to digital.
What is the average movies you get in the IMAX itself with the 3D?
How is the
like how many movies, like what, a week or different motion picture movies you have coming to the IMAX?
Well, right now we I guess I should start by saying IMAX is an acronym for Image Maximum, and it refers to the size of the film frame, which I'll talk about here in a second. And it was invented by 4 high school engineers from Toronto in 1967, and the first IMAX theater opened in 1971 in Toronto. And the reason they invented the medium was not so much in terms of, for the purposes of showcasing Hollywood content, but for taking the audience to, the viewer, to places they could not normally go or visit, and literally putting them into the action. So that's where the birth of the IMAX classic documentary films came from. So with the IMAX film frame, we have a few examples here. Let me start with this here. This little frame on the right is one frame of standard 35mm film. This is the kind of film you used to put in your film cameras prior to taking digital photographs. So one frame 35mm film, that's the width of it, and it has 4 perforations, or 4 sprocket holes as we call them, per frame. When you look at one IMAX film frame, this is one frame of classic native IMAX, and it's 15 perforations or sprocket holes per frame. So if you count the sprocket holes along here, there's 15 of them as opposed to 4 on a piece of 35mm film, and this is 70mm wide. So that's twice the width of 35mm, but it's also bigger horizontally. So the film is projected horizontally this way through the projector, whereas in 35mm it goes through the projector up and down. Now in terms of surface area size, you can fit 10 frames of one piece of 35mm film into one frame of IMAX. So the combination of the size of the film frame when projected on a screen here at the Henry Ford that is 62 feet tall and 85 feet wide, the sense of impact is 10 times greater, of course, than traditional cinema in terms of encompassing your peripheral vision. This is what an actual photograph in the film frame looks like. This is 2 frames of IMAX film here. And in this photo, you will see how we actually splice the film, which I'll perform here in a second. But here's the frame line in the center, and here's one that's been cut. So if I put it together, you see the frame line, and we have a special device that cuts the film with a zigzag cut like this, so that when we splice the reels of the print together, we go like this, and we put a piece of tape on one side, and then we flip it over and we put a piece of tape on the other side, and it will make a strong splice, which I'll do here right now, actually. So here we have the IMAX film splicer, and I have a piece of film here that's two IMAX frames, and I'm going to cut it here and then splice it in the middle so you can see how we do that process. So we line it up on the block with the frame line in the middle of the cutter. You can see here in this, with this light table, the frame line is in the middle of the zigzag cutter. We have a blade that's going to come down here, so I'll bring down the blade and we'll cut it. Okay, so you can now see the zigzag cut, or excuse me, the tail and the head, which is the end and the beginning of the reel. And we'll position it over the splicer block where we're going to bring our tape across it. Okay, very old school here, but we're still doing it. And we have our tape. We'll bring it across the cut, center it, pushing out any air bubbles so that the tape has a good sticking to the film. And then we bring down our cutter, which is actually going to cut the tape here and here, and it's also going to punch a hole in the tape where this went over the sprocket holes of the film. Bring it down, 1, 2. Okay, and now we have it spliced, and we have a very strong splice that is not going to come apart when the film goes through the projector.
Very good.
One of the other major differences between 35mm film and IMAX film is that when you look at a piece of 35mm film, you may not be able to tell so much from this little piece here. But in 35mm projection, which now has essentially all been replaced by digital, by the way, the soundtrack is actually on the film. So on this side of the film frame, there would be 2 tiny lines, left and right channel, which would be optically read by a light when the film passes through the projector, kind of like a needle on a piece of vinyl. So all the soundtrack information in 35 millimeter is actually on the film stock itself. In IMAX, we just have picture. There is no soundtrack information whatsoever on the actual IMAX film. And the reason they did that was so that they didn't have to sacrifice any of the surface area on the film stock to relegate to soundtrack information. They wanted to be able to use the full entire frame for visual, for picture. So what they did was they took the soundtrack and put it on a separate medium, and that is this here. We have digital sound now, of course. It's not analog sound anymore. This is the soundtrack for our film Humpback Whales. And what we do is we download this DVD-ROM into our audio hard drive for our sound system, and it plays back in synchronization with the picture. So we have a time code generator, which generates the time code when the film is being projected, and it matches the audio down to hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. So that when we play back the audio, when we play back the film, they're locked together in the projection system, and the audio always matches the picture. In addition to just simply playing the soundtracks back in the IMAX theater, we also measure the sound very carefully every time we open or launch a new film. We want to make sure we have the correct volume setting in the theater. We want to make sure all of our speakers are working correctly and everything. And for that we use this device. This is a sound level meter, or in professional audio we call it a spectrum analyzer. And this takes an exact decibel, that's what dB stands for. Sound, of course, is measured in decibels. And this will take an exact decibel reading measurement in the theater. So we'll play back the soundtrack for the entire film in the theater, and we'll have this device down in the theater, and we'll measure the sound level of the entire film to make sure it's not too soft or not too loud. And it's a very accurate device, and this is just one of the many things that ensures that we put on the best possible presentation every time that we run a show. And another component, of course, of the projection system is the light source. With classic IMAX 70mm projection, or 1570 as we call it, I told you about the 15 sprocket holes per frame, we need a very large light source. So what you're looking at here is a xenon lamp, more specifically a 15,000 watt xenon lamp, and this is what we use with the classic IMAX film projectors. This is it's called a xenon arc lamp because inside this glass envelope is xenon gas under high pressure, and the anode and cathodes of the lamp, of course, are not connected like a filament inside an incandescent light bulb. There's a gap there where the arc would take place. And these lamps run on very high amperage of direct current, so about 37.5 volts DC at 400 amps. When you multiply volts times amps, you get watts. So 37.5 times 400 is about 15,000 watts. That's what these lamps are rated at. So when we're showing a 2D film, that means one that's not in 3D, we're shining 15,000 watts of light onto our screen. And we need that brightness again because of the size of the film frame when projected on a 6x8 story screen. For 3D projection, because we're projecting two prints, a left eye print and a right eye print, we're going to have two of these lamps on, one for each eye. And in 3D projection, which I'll talk about now, these are the glasses that you put on when you watch a 3D movie. They're polarizing filters in the glasses that correspond to polarizing filters on the main lenses of the IMAX projector. These are the largest lamps used in film projection, and only the classic IMAX theaters use these lamps anymore. A couple of other applications, just to compare. There are two other applications that I know of where these lamps have been used. One, NASA used them on the launching pad at night to illuminate the space shuttle at night on the launching pad. because these can project very bright light at great distances. And Niagara Falls actually uses these 15,000 watt xenon lamps to light up the falls at night. Weigh about 7 pounds or so. And this is solid tungsten here at the ends. And because they're so bright, they produce a lot of heat and they need to be cooled during projection. So we have a device on the projector that sucks hot air out of the lamp house area. And we also use chilled water to cool the lamps, which is pumped in here at the ends of the lamp. We pump chilled water in there, and it gets pumped back out. Luminescence meter. This is a luminescence meter or a light meter. What this does is it takes brightness readings in foot lamperts. That's how we measure light in the measurement called foot lamperts on the IMAX screen. So we will run a piece of test film through the IMAX projector and point this meter at, let me see, 9 different places on the screen. So we'll go to the center screen, top center, bottom center, right top, right bottom, left center, left top, left bottom. We take 9 different readings across the entire surface area of the screen. So we have. So this is where we sit as us projectionists. We're always here in the projection booth. This is the control console for the IMAX projector. Of course, we're not running a film right now at the moment, but through this picture window behind me, we have a complete view of the screen. Let me turn up we have a bird's eye view up here in the projection room, where we monitor the show constantly throughout the day. And as I said, this is where you control everything, and the projector is right behind me over here. So it's kind of like... Okay, hi again everyone. We're sitting inside the IMAX theater now. Again, we're closed right now, so there's nobody in the theater, but we have 440 seats in here, and behind me is the IMAX screen, which I said is 62 feet tall by 85 feet wide. And you can see it's pretty large just with me sitting here in the foreground talking to you, but we're going to do something we don't normally do. We're going to take Alex, going to go down into at the very base of the screen, which is 25 feet below ground. The bottom of the screen actually goes down below ground level about 25 feet. And we're going to go all the way down there to the bottom and stand at the base of the screen so you can really see, for size comparison, how big that screen is as compared to somebody who's 5 or 6 feet tall. Okay?
Well, I'm at the bottom here of the IMAX screen, which is 62 feet wide, and actually not as height-wise. Excuse me for that. 82 feet wide. This really hasn't happened before. I was lucky that I could be down here. Thanks to Ron. So yeah.
How tall are you?
Oh, I'm 5'9". Sorry.
So 5'9" in height compared to 62 feet tall. Yeah.
Pretty much, it overpowered me, let's just say that. The screen overpowers me. I'm kind of short of a guy, and there's no way that someone that tall enough to be higher than the screen.
People can come up. One of the features of the theater I didn't mention here at the Henry Ford is people can come up after their show. They can't physically come in the projection booth, but we have a wall of windows in the back of the projection booth where they can come in and look in and see all this equipment in here and watch the projectionists thread the show. Guests love it. It really gives them an insight into what it takes to put on shows like this to live audiences. And but for us, that's what we love doing. We love putting on the show to the audience, and if the guest goes away having a good show, that's what our job is about. And it's a very rewarding feeling, especially when I see school groups coming in and the kids having a good time and going away watching these films having learned something. That's what makes it all worth it to me. And you know what the future holds for digital or laser projection, we're just gonna take it as it comes and see where we end up. But for right now, we're still running the classic old school IMAX, and I still love it. So I've been doing it for 15 years since the theater opened, and I still very much enjoy it. So hope you come down and come up and say hello here at the Henry Ford IMAX projection booth. Thank you.